Hey y'all, it's my review for the Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 14 Reunion Part 2. Last week's reunion, it was meh. Let's see if Part 2 is any better. So Marlo is still going on about her sob story. She is pushing them tears out to Andy, and Andy is the only one buying it. I'm sorry, Marlo. She showed her whole ass this season, and now she's trying to play the victim. And thank you, Kenya, for interrupting the BS and calling out her contradictions. Kenya also brings up what Marlo said about Candy's coochie miles, and she's like, what? When did I say that? I'm tired of the lies. I'm tired of Marlo's lies. I'm tired of Sheree's lies. She really don't remember what she said about Candy. I said that? Yes, heifer, you did. I hate how Marlo is making Kenya so likable. She's reading Marlo so eloquently right now. But someone told me on Twitter, and I want to know if y'all agree, Marlo is doing to Kenya what Kenya did to Nene when she came on. Do y'all agree? I mean, I can kind of see it a little bit because, we didn't just not dislike Kenya for no reason when she came on. She was an antagonizer. So maybe that's what Marlo was brought on to do since Kenya doesn't want to play the villain anymore. So then Sonia comes to Marlo's defense. I'm just like, Sonia, just picking the wrong team. Marlo's going to eventually burn you. You'll find out season 15 since we found out that all 6 women have been invited back. They better bring back Portia and add a friend of because we can't have this same 6 next season. Drew kindly tells Marlo that she would like to get to know her more, but she would love for her to be more consistent. Coming from Drew, is Drew consistent? She's a consistent liar. Marlo says she's going to try to do better, but she says she's not a liar. Oh, so when you lied in season 4 about Africa and saying the F word, you didn't lie about that? Ooh, I would have brought that up if I was Kenya. Third thing, talking about Marlo's Break-In, that definitely happened, unlike on another franchise, but we see the footage, and Marlo said that she just shouted a couple things that made them run out the house, and she must have shot the gun from her room or made some real believable threats for them to leave her house like that. Andy, of course, then asked Kenya what she meant when she went to social media saying that Marlo should have let the other ladies know about her break-in. Now with this, I'm on Marlo's side. I get that Kenya doesn't like Marlo, but she was actually cooperating with the police who told her not to tell anybody. And if you ain't effing with Kenya, then why would you tell her about that? Kenya tries to clean it up a bit and say that first and foremost when she heard about it, she cared about her well-being before she went in on her. Even if she wanted to be informed about it on the group chat, what would that do more than what the police were doing? Anyway, now we get to the plotline kids and why she kicked them out. Andy lets her know that the viewers had a lot to say about her doing that, and she says that she just needed a break. Candy tries to tell Marlo, if you've been through this same thing, from foster care to foster care, and have first-hand experience of being put out, why would you do that to the boys knowing that that would create trauma to them? Marlo then retracts to her sob story again and saying that there's no handbook to be a parent and a guardian. She says she needs to reset, go to a therapist so she can be the best person she can be for the boys. Kenya has been rolling her eyes all throughout Marlo's segment, and I have too. Marlo's then asked how her sister or the boy's mom is doing, and she says she hasn't heard from her, so nothing has changed with that. Andy's telling Marlo how moved he was watching her with the boys calling their mom, and he actually calls her brilliant for handling the situation with the boys so well. Andy is sopping this sob story up like a biscuit and gravy. Ha ha! Kenya then asks Andy for a tissue, and he's like, oh, you're moved? You need to wipe a tear? She's like, no, my nose is cold. Ha ha! Andy's trying to move on with Marlo's segment while Kenya says under her breath, damage control. And then Marlo calls her an evil bitch under her breath. And she says, Andy, hurt people hurt people. Kenya and I are hurting because our family history are so much alike. Well, if you knew that, Marlo, you wouldn't have came for her mom many seasons ago. Marlo says Kenya can never uplift her, but she's used to it, and now they're going back and forth. Kenya's like, stop. Just stop with the fake stories. It's BS. Marlo came with a script. She must be trying to get Andy and producers on her side because she's not fooling the viewers. I'm not sure she's fooling y'all. Andy low-key seemed like he getting a kick out of this, and then he asked Kenya, do you want me to move on, Kenya? She's like, I really would love you to. Okay, we're gonna move on. Thank goodness, because Marlo was just laying it on a little bit too thick for me. So the next segment is dedicated to the receipts that were shown by production throughout the season, because as we can see, some of these ladies lie a lot. We see the longest receipt belonged to Ralph and Drew on how he used to gaslight her throughout the season. That did take me out when production did that whole black and white movie reel of Ralph's gaslighting. And Drew confirms to Andy that she didn't know what that meant. And she said, well, that's marriage, you know? No, that's marriage to a toxic fuckboy. We're just going through lies right now. With Drew, she's talking about when Ralph played football. Andy wants to know a little bit more about that. She's trying to explain, but the ladies are just laughing at her excuse for Ralph being a bench warmer. We then get to Sheree for her lies about September, spring, summer, but she says she capitalized off it by selling joggers and t-shirts with it on there. We're 15 minutes in and my fucks are few. I hope it changes, y'all. Andy's first question to the ladies is, did anyone notice the change in Kenya this year? And everyone says a resounding yes. I mean, she's not the villain anymore. She's not antagonistic to the other ladies. She's actually likable. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was calculated on her end. Kenya's talking about being on Dancing with the Stars so passionately. I hardly remember her on there. Kenya is talking so passionately about being on Dancing with the Stars, but I barely remember her on there. Apparently, thanks to that experience, it made Kenya more lighter and palatable on the show. I think it was because Portia wasn't there. Like, when you put Portia in the mix, Kenya just gets adversarial for some reason. Oh my God, we get an update with her and Mark. They are still not divorced. She's been separated as long as they've been married. And this isn't a Bethany Frankel situation where there's like so much money involved. Like, why are they not divorced yet? She says that she's not asking for support, so what is the reason? What was the reason? She said that there's no trial date yet, and he's not looking to settle anytime soon, so they're just caught in this limbo. That is ridiculous. We then get to Kenya versus Sonya and that whole beef about Sonya needing Kenya to bring a +1 to the Jamaica trip and Kenya hanging up the phone on her. Sonya clarifies to Kenya that she didn't mean it like that, and when they were on Candy's trip, she heard her say, oh, if she knew she could have brought a +1, she would have, so she applied that to the Jamaica trip. But I can see it from Kenya's point of view, how Sonya was like, +1, Kenya, just reminding you, it is a +1, like she needed to bring a man with her. It looks like Sonya apologizes. It was a miscommunication. I'm not sure why they made it such a big thing. Kenya, however, though, says she doesn't regret hanging up on Sonya. We're now in the Jamaica drama, and I do use drama lightly because it really wasn't nothing. But Kenya and Sheree were really pissed that they missed Sonya's shoot. And Andy, like the rest of the audience, was wondering, why did you care? Especially because they got to enjoy a boat trip anyway. Now, I was on Sonya's side on this because why would she worry about two grown-ass adults getting to her shoot? That's not her responsibility. She said y'all can come if y'all want. It wasn't malicious, but I don't know. I'm guessing producers wanted some drama. So as Sheree is giving her 2 cents about this, she just so happens to get a FaceTime from Martell, the guy from Love and Marriage Huntsville she's seeing. Kenya hurries up and snatches her phone, answers it, and tells Martell to call her later. And I think Andy gets it and says, hey, Martell. Lord, is this what we're going to have to look forward to next season? They are being so giddy about this Martell man, who I've heard is not shit at all on his own reality show. They are getting through this Jamaica drama so fast. I'm wondering, why do we need 3 parts? Like, we already talked about Sonya's man getting up saying, don't fuck with my wife. Like, they already finished talking about that. Like, Sonya's saying that it was no harm. He wasn't talking to anybody. He was just saying to the table, like she felt like he was standing up for her. And Kenya kind of backpedals on what she said on the show about calling him aggressive and said that she understood that he was standing up for his wife. And she was just taken aback because he really doesn't speak that much. We're now going back early in the season to Kenya's daughter's birthday party and the drama that happened there. Sheree's being called out for her very shady confession about Candy, saying that she sucked D everywhere else. She clarifies to say Candy loves sex, so what's wrong with sucking D everywhere else? Like, you sucked in the car before, I'm sure. You sucked in different places. Candy's like, well, then that means you sucked D in different places. And Sheree cops to that and they all laugh. So after that, no one on the cast still has admitted to writing what they said about Kandi on there. So I'm guessing it's just going to be a mystery. Maybe a producer wrote it, maybe Futon wrote it, maybe somebody else at the table wrote it to be funny. So what I'm getting from Kenya, she's explaining how different she is this season. She's saying that she's happier, but when she first married Mark on the show, like, wasn't she happier? Or when she first had Brooklyn? I don't know. It's hard for me to buy it, but I guess I'm a rent it. 35 minutes in, y'all, and I'm still unimpressed. We're now on Sonya's reel and her journey through the season. Most of her storyline outside of being a bone collector revolved around her family and her husband wanted another child from her. Drew's just talking about her experience on the show. She said it was positive to her. She definitely wants to be on next season. Sonya's then asked the timeline on when she plans to have a baby, since at the end of the season finale she agreed to. She says that by the end of the year she's going to try to have one, and Andy then asked, well, what changed your mind? Because in the beginning of the season, y'all seemed like y'all were in two different places. She said that she only wanted to be listened to, and I didn't get that from the beginning of the season. From the beginning of the season, it seemed like she was done. That's all she wanted. I remember her saying Ross had a job outside the state that he tended to a lot, so he couldn't really be there for their first child, so she didn't want that to happen again. So then I wonder how I get to he's just not listening to me, and now that he finally agreed to listen to me, now I'm gonna give him the baby. Does that make sense to y'all? I was just confused by that, but I was like, well, it is convenient for her to have this plot line if she's coming back for season 15. We then get to Drew's ignorant comments saying that the woman should provide the man with a child or else somebody else will. She just be saying some stupid shit that makes me think she belongs with Ralph. Like, they're made for each other. And when Sonya tries to tell her how crazy she's sounding on Watch What Happens Live and she doubled down on it, Drew still isn't getting it. And you can tell by the expression of the other ladies' faces. Sonya then ends the conversation telling Drew that she needs to have more compassion, just how she asked people to have compassion for her marriage troubles. For some reason, anytime it's an argument between Sonya and Drew, I just want them to move it right along. I don't even want to hear it. Side note, have y'all noticed how Kandi has hardly said anything during this part of the reunion? Like, she is a seasoned cast member. She's like the longest one there. And with season 15, she's going to be the longest running housewife on her franchise. And she has nothing to talk about? Why is she here? And I love Kandi. I'm going to preface with that, but I think it's time for her to move on. I really do. So now the next reel is dedicated to Marlo and Kenya's feud throughout this season. Marlo says her beef with Kenya is she always dismisses her. She first uses her and then she dismisses her when she's done. Now, if you go back earlier in the seasons, Kenya did use Marlo to get back at Nene. So she has a point there. But they've been friends like at the beginning of the season, but I think when she has something against Kenya, she always goes below the belt and hits to either her husband or her child, which is despicable. Marlo tries to throw at Kenya that she only wanted to be her friend to get back at Portia because she wanted to use Marlo for information and she didn't want her to be Portia's friend. And that just erupts into a back and forth. And Kenya's saying that Marlo was the one that threw Portia under the bus about Bolo. Oh, guys, season 13, I'm getting flashbacks now. But yeah, I agree with Kenya. Marlo did try to throw Portia under the bus that season. She backstabbed Portia, not Kenya. Kenya was already obsessed with trying to take Portia down. Marlo just jumped in on it. Andy asked her, do you think your friendship with Kenya is over after you constantly disrespected her? She's like, oh yeah, I think it's done. And I'm super sad about it. I cry at night. Even Andy kind of laughed at that. At this point, I'm glad she doesn't care if Kenya's going to be her friend. Like, I'm really curious how they're going to move along since they're all coming back next season. Like, where are they going to go from that? Because they have to film together at some point. They got the split screen now. They're talking of each other, going back and forth. Marlo's like, I don't know what I'm going to do without her. So now Kenya's calling Marlo all types of fakes, says Marlo Hampton isn't even your real name. Your real name is Latoya Hutchinson. And then the other ladies on Marlo's end of the couch are spooked. Marlo's like, my best friend is named Latoya. You're looking at my arrest records from 20 years ago. Andy asked her, is that her real name? We then cut to her birth certificate. kit. I'm guessing she gave it to production after filming wrapped. It says Marlo Patrice Hampton, but you know, knowing Marlo, she could get that altered. I kind of believe Kenya on this. If anybody wants to confirm that tea in the comments, feel free. Now Kenya coming with some off-camera tea. That's not what Alex said. That's not what Alex said. Is she talking about Alexander Rogers? Okay, so this person's name is Alan, and she's talking about the white guy, the crook that know your friend. What? They bringing in too much off-camera stuff now. What they talking about? And is Andy gonna get to the bottom of it, or just gonna move on? We back to the split screen again. Mom's like, did you pay your taxes? King's like, did you pay yours? Ladies, none of y'all have paid y'all taxes. We know. Now Kenya bringing up the square reader read that she said a couple of reunions back. They're like throwing everything but the kitchen sink at each other right now. I mean, at least I'm entertained in this moment. At least I'm entertained. Andy then moves on and asks Kenya the double standard of her saying that Marlo says hurtful things when she in turn has said many hurtful things about other people. Kenya clarifies that Marlo can never say anything hurtful to her because she's an innocuous, vapid, shallow person. She says what annoys her is what she says about other people that can hurt them. I'm guessing like has to do with her mom, Mark, and her kid. As they get through that, Andy wants to continue to unpack this feud between Kenya and Marlo and asks Kenya, does she think that both of their parental issues factor into their feud? Kenya then takes this moment to unleash into Marlo and bring up all the things that Marlo does not want to talk about on the show, particularly her going to jail. She says prison. They're going back and forth. Marlo says, I've never been to prison. She's been to jail. And then Kenya drops the bomb is like, you never talk about when you went to jail for slashing another woman in the face. We all know that tea, and she's right, she's never brought it up, but for good reason. Marlo calls her a liar, continues to try to talk over Kenya. Andy just wants to move on. Marlo's like, can I just say one more thing before we move on? She looks at Kenya, you're a lying bitch. She said that with such vitriol. The reaction on Andy's face is like, so Andy thankfully did not skirt on that issue, and he turns to Marlo and asks, like, okay, after foster care, you've gotten into trouble, you've been arrested, you've been to jail. She says she went to jail for 6 months, I'm guessing for the slashing, and she said it was a wake-up call for her. I'm glad we're unpacking this finally, because she's been on this show since season 4. Marlo then says her mugshots after her stint in jail came from parole violations and I'm guessing a bounce check. But she stands on the fact that Kenya is lying about the information that she has and she's like, oh girl, she trying to bury me, but God got me. We then finally move on to a different feud between Sheree and Drew because Marlo and Kenya, that was so chaotic just now what I saw. I hope when I look back and edit this, it makes sense for y'all. So after the reel of their feud throughout the season, the first topic is the scheming sissy assistant. Here goes Sheree lying again. Someone pointed out if Anthony not your assistant, then why is he labeled in your phone as an assistant? She's like, oh, well, you know, when I meet people, like I just put, you know, their title at the top. Like, you know, assistant. I got maybe 15 assistants, 10 painters in my phone. I don't believe a word is coming out of her mouth. So now the split screen is between Drew and Sheree. She says when she got that information, she didn't necessarily believe it, but she felt uncomfortable with that information. Sheree brings up a good point. Well, if you didn't believe it, you shouldn't have a problem spreading it around, which we saw that she did. According to Sheree, who is still in contact with Anthony, she said that Anthony told her he didn't say that. Does no one think that they're filmed? I really do. They just forget that the cameras are there. We saw him say, oh, Sheree, she just don't pay. We saw you say it. So what is she talking about? This is a fight between two liars. We're all, as an audience, are going to be confused no matter what. So then Andy brings up the assistant allegedly calling Ralph gay, and then Drew gets her phone and says Anthony didn't say that. She has a recorded conversation between him and Ralph, and he's saying the bitch don't like me. I'm not sure who he's referring to. I'm sure he's not referring to Drew because why would he refer to her as a bitch to Ralph? Because I'm sure Ralph probably would have did something about that. I'm guessing he's talking about Sheree, but now I'm just even more confused. It sounds like this is just one messy sissy looking for camera time. And these two scamming ass liars are being manipulated by this messy homo. Lord, so now Sheree has the assistant on FaceTime. She's asking him, were you ever my assistant? He says no. She asks him, do I owe you any money? He says, you don't owe me anything. Sheree then lets him know that Drew has a recorded tape of him saying that he did not say that Ralph was gay. Andy then directly asks him, did you tell Sheree that Ralph was gay? He then says, maybe at some point in time I did, I don't recall. Child, all three of them are liars. He says, do I think Ralph is gay? No. But did Drew need a storyline this season? Absolutely. See, credibility out of the window for both women. He was trying to play these two women to get on the show. Andy then sees through the bullshit and then hangs up on Anthony for Sheree. Like, he played both of y'all, and he did the same thing on Basketball Wives, a whole different show. Of course he's from Atlanta too. No offense to y'all from Atlanta, but I'm just not surprised. So then they end the reunion there. That is where the episode ends. Next week is part 3. Y'all, they are wasting our time. This could have been 2 parts, each part being 1 hour and 15 minutes. This did not need to be 3 parts. What else is there to talk about? I'm guessing they're going to bring the husbands on stage and get their point of view and try to milk that for all it's worth. Child, I'm looking forward to Married to Medicine and Toya mushing Audra in the face. This Atlanta reunion ain't bringing it how I wanted to, and at this point, I'm just looking forward to Potomac. Y'all let me know what y'all think about part 2. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all for Married to Medicine. Bye.